Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Bridge Views. I'm your host, Ashley Cougar, and today I have one of Atlanta's most respected voices in the Atlanta homicide scene, as well as true crime in general. We have Vince Velazquez with over 22 years of experience. He has solved many cases which have been on the prominent show Atlanta Homicide. He works as a private detective and does consulting services and even has a podcast. You may have seen him on the sidelines with the Atlanta Hawks, and his experience is just ever growing. Welcome to the show, Vince.
Thanks for having me, Ashley.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So I want to start from the beginning.
All the way back.
All the way back, way back, way back. What made you apply and work at the Atlanta Police Department?
That's a great question. I have to go way back to when I was a kid. So we could be here all day talking about that. But growing up in somewhat of a disenfranchised neighborhood, I got to see a lot of different things happening crime-wise. Like, there was prostitution and drugs was prominent even in my own family. So growing up, I needed to get out of that neighborhood. So my progression into law enforcement actually started after high school by joining the military. So
Right.
I joined the military at 17 and shipped off to boot camp. Best decision I made. So I spent 7 years traveling the world, lived in England, lived in Germany, and then I got out. I used to fix airplanes, fighter jets. I was a mechanic.
So what branch of the military were you in?
Air Force.
Okay, and then you were a mechanic in the Air Force.
That's right.
Okay, and where are you from originally for those that may not know?
So I was born in New York. I was born in the Bronx, and I was there at a very young age. We left and moved to Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
So from Tampa, went to high school there, and then joined the Air Force and left. Never been back. His family still lives here, but I've never moved back. So I've kind of been on my own since I was 17.
Okay.
And then after the Air Force, the natural progression is to get your civilian license to fix planes, which I did, my FAA license. And then I was hired by Delta Airlines. That brought me to Atlanta. So I used to fix the big jets at Delta. And I realized that I hated my job.
You're like, what am I doing?
Yeah, and if you think about it, if you think about a doctor or surgeon who is saving lives but hates what they do, it's a very dangerous place to be if you're the patient. So now put yourself as a passenger on the airplane with somebody who's fixing planes who hates what they do. Now, I did a great job, did my best, but it took every ounce of effort I had. I didn't enjoy it. And I used to think back, said, I've always been interested in law enforcement. And in 1994, I actually applied to the police department. So to set this stage, working for Delta Airlines is like you made it to the big leagues. Of all the airlines, even today.
Even now.
Like Delta is the premier airline out there, and it was back then. For every 100 mechanics they interviewed, they hire one. And I was making great money for 1991 is when I got hired. I just had a son born in 1995. I started going through the process to be a police officer and wasn't sure if I get hired. I'm thinking, okay, let's just see how this goes. And then I started to see the progression. They're like, fine, we want to hire you. Now here comes with a caveat. Brand new son. I'm making great money. The trade-off is I've got to take a 75% pay cut.
Oh,
Yeah. So imagine taking a 75% pay cut with a brand new baby. Everybody thought it was absolutely
insane.
But I did it. Best move I ever made. I realized once I became trained, I committed to the academy, and I'm on the street, that it was my calling. And like every officer, I started in uniform, started patrolling various units in uniform. And finally, after 5 years, I got promoted to detective and went straight to homicide.
That's amazing. I want to ask, what made you make that change? Was it just solely like your happiness or trying to find something that made you happy? Because that pay cut alone, I think most people would be like, it's fine. I don't need to be happy. Like, I can just stick with these planes. Like, what gave you the drive to say, like, I can do this and I can make this happen?
I think, it was twofold. It was peace of mind. I needed to be in a good headspace, and I'm looking at longevity, and I didn't think I could maintain that type of psychology for myself working at Delta Airlines for the long haul. And I said, my quality of life is so important to me. And then I've always had a passion of helping people. So if I think back, I've pretty much been in uniform my entire life.
Yeah.
Like I went from high school to a uniform in the military to a uniform working for the airlines to a police uniform. So I've been in public service my entire life. So I've always felt a calling to like help people. Um, and when I started to become like a patrol officer and out there dealing with these crazy situations, like you can't imagine, from, domestic calls to like, suicide calls and then the progression. I volunteered to become a hostage negotiator. That's not, you don't get paid extra for that. And that's not, that's
Really?
right. So I'm homicide. Actually, before I was in homicide, I was a negotiator. So you do your patrol duties, or then I was in a tactical drug unit. And if there's a barricaded gunman or someone threatening suicide, you drop what you're doing. You and your team get together as a negotiator, connect with SWAT, and you go out there. So that's like an extra layer of me trying to just help people. So that was my calling. And then when I got to homicide, I really understood this is where I belong. So most people, most cops, you're you have a rank structure, and the more rank you make, the more money you make.
Okay. So you're
So
like, I can make that back.
I could, but I didn't. And here's the crazy part, because I made detective. Of course, that's a pay raise. It's a prestigious position, but it comes with a higher pay. But then there's also sergeant, then lieutenant, and then major, and on up. But you have to test for those. You have to actually apply the test. I never did that, because what happens is I'm in homicide. I'm a detective. I'm working. If I make sergeant, I go back in uniform, back to the street, and that's the natural progression. If you make, then you can maybe get back to homicide, but then when you make lieutenant, you go back to the street. So I decided, you know what? I'm good. I don't need to be a sergeant. Homicide is where I belong.
Okay.
I need to master this skill, from interviewing, interrogation, to crime scene, to investigation, putting pieces of that puzzle together. And I ended up staying in homicide for 17 years until I retired.
Is that usual or is that considered like unusual?
It's usual. When I got to homicide, there were detectives that had been there for over 20 years in homicide.
Wow.
Never tested, just like me. Like they found their calling. They're phenomenal detectives, uh, men and women who I learned so much from. So I think it's a unique position. Like homicide is different than most units because you deal with so much. You deal with death. You deal with the families that are left behind. You deal with the stress of interviewing suspects and attending autopsies. But there's so many facets to investigating the death of a human that it's intriguing. It's exciting. Especially when you start to get on the trail of the bad guy.
Right.
It's almost like, okay, I got you. I know who you are. I know where you're at. I'm getting close to you. I'm gonna do a surveillance to the point where I'm ready to close the case.
What skills do you think are like the most needed to do that? Because that's a multifaceted, like, I feel like you need everything. What do you feel like are the top four? Like, you need this in order to be successful as a homicide detective.
The number one skill I think a homicide detective needs is patience, because most cases, unlike what you see on TV, are not solved in the first 48 hours.
Yeah.
First 48 hours are crucial, but like you see TV drama shows and they're like, I need DNA. And all of a sudden, 10 minutes
Boom.
later, we got a hit. Doesn't work that way. It could be 6 months before you get that result back because the crime lab is so backed up. So patience is definitely one of the number one virtues that you need. And then you need to have an analytical mind. You need to be able to like decipher things, take things apart, put them back together. So you got to have that analytical piece. Third, I would say, is you need to have an open mind. You need to really be objective, because the minute you start getting tunnel vision, that's when your investigation starts to crumble. You cannot focus just on the low hanging fruit, because it's right in front of you doesn't mean it's good evidence.
That makes
Um,
sense.
we had a case one time where we were going down the right road, at least we thought we were, with a person, uh, and we had enough evidence to arrest him for murder, and we probably would have got a conviction, but something didn't feel right. My partner and I, at the time, we had to talk about it, and I'm like, "How do you feel?" He's like, "This something in my gut tells me this isn't right." So we kept digging. So we just said, "Let's just leave him alone, and let's explore this other area." We ended up finding an alternate suspect, and boy, was the evidence compelling against him, all the way to DNA. He actually had this poor dead lady's bloody purse hidden behind his air conditioning unit.
So do you think he was setting up the other person?
They didn't
That's
even know
why.
each other. The other person was connected to the victim, but through circumstance, evidence started to look like he was responsible.
Gotcha.
So that having an open mind, I said, would be number 3. And number 4, I think, is compassion. You gotta be able to understand that you're not just investigating the death of a human. You're also dealing with the family of that person.
Yeah.
And the crazy part of that is not just the family of the dead person, but the family of the suspect.
Mhm.
Because many times they didn't do anything wrong. And we've had cases where we have arrested people and had to deal with the family of the suspect, try to interview them, try to talk to them. And you can imagine that could be contentious.
Oh, for sure.
But then fast forward 2 years later, after that case is closed, a member of their family is murdered. And now they're on the other side of this thing. We're dealing with that same family now as the surviving family members of a homicide victim where their other member was responsible for somebody else's murder. So it came full circle. So the compassion of understanding there's 2 families affected here. So I would say those are probably the 4 top qualities you would need.
So on topic, but kind of random. When you are interviewing someone that's a suspect, that all the evidence looks legit, it's damning, it's guaranteed to be this person, and you bring them in, you interview them, all the things. I feel like Criminal Minds touched on this on an episode. They thought they had their person. It seemed like the person, it wasn't. They ended up arresting someone else. However, due to all the news headlines and all the things of the person being arrested with this case, it just completely ruined their life. Have you ever had that experience? Or, like, how do you guys handle that? Or is that more dramatized for TV? Does it not really unfold like that?
It hasn't been my experience that it's unfolded that way. I think it is dramatized. We've had suspects like that, but what we call that is washing them off. Like if they're someone who is an initial suspect, and then the evidence just doesn't start to really pan out on them. We're not putting their name out there. Now through circumstance, sometimes that happens. I can give you a perfect example of something like that happening back in 1996, the Olympic Park bombing.
Mhm.
There was a security guy named Richard Jewell who actually found a backpack, was moving people out of the way. He became the prime suspect. And the AJC exclusively covered a lot of, you know, the focus on him. His reputation was ruined. He ended up filing suit. Obviously, it wasn't him.
Right.
It was Eric Robert Rudolph, who was the Olympic Park bomber. But that other individual who was vilified in the media, his reputation ruined, his life ruined, ended up filing suit, I believe, against, it may not have been AJC or a major newspaper, and won. I haven't had a case like that. I've had a case that was high profile. Typically, the cases like that, it's when a spouse is killed. First suspect is going to be the surviving spouse. You
Right.
always look at that person. It's a missing person, and all of a sudden they find the body, and then we have a homicide investigation, and all of a sudden the spouse may have been on TV
Mhm.
talking about my missing spouse, and people are wondering if that person actually is the killer. There's really no way around that. What we try to do, and I've had cases like that, when we identify a real viable suspect, uh, we do a presser and we make it known that, we have alibied out the husband or
Okay.
the boyfriend or the girlfriend or whomever. And, they're cooperating. There's nothing that shows that they had anything to do with this. This is our suspect. We made an arrest, case closed.
Okay. Can you walk us through, like, the first real case that tested you as a detective? That you felt like this was really hard?
Yeah, well, I've had lots of cases like that, but I would say the very first case that tested me was a homicide, actually not far from where we're sitting right now. In my early years in homicide, I would say probably in 2001, where I had an eyewitness who claimed to have seen the shooting. Now, the eyewitness was not someone who you would say it's someone who lived on the fringes of society,
Okay.
drug addicted, uh, I
Possibly not that reliable.
not that reliable, but the details that this witness provided were impeccable. Me being eager and a new detective, I started to consider, should I make an arrest based on this? And there was other circumstances that led to me feeling that way, not just from what this witness said, but other things that kind of pointed at that same person she identified. And I was ready to like pull the trigger, so to speak, and get a warrant. And one of the senior detectives pulled me to the side. I was like,
Slow down.
he's come. He's saying he said Kimosabi. He said, slow down, Kimosabi. And I was like, what's up? 'Cause he's the OG, right? I'm like, what? He's like, all right, let's
Walk it back a
deconstruct
little.
this, right? Now, what do you have? So I explained to him. He goes, what have you done to verify that? And I started to think, okay, it's a good point. What can you do? So we went through this whole process, right? This whole exercise. And I learned a valuable lesson. Ended up not being that person. Ended up being a totally different suspect. But what was interesting about the details in this witness's statement to me was they matched up to the crime scene.
So it's not like
And,
they were
and,
lying.
and it matched up to some of the details that they provided about that one individual.
Hmm.
But what I didn't consider was if someone else had seen that and
And told her.
regurgitated it to her, and then she just changes some of the characters in the story, it still sounds the same and it sounds like a Bible story. So I learned a lesson. I learned a lesson that um, that day that, I was considering putting somebody in jail for a murder that they didn't commit. And there's no way I could have lived with that. Thank God I didn't, so I learned a lesson that day. So from that point forward, it really made me slow down, have patience, and all the 4 things that we just talked about,
Mhm.
I started to develop those skills.
Do you get a lot of people that try to, like, insert themselves in the cases, like, whether, again, on TV, you always see, like, a psychic or someone that just wants to be famous, so they're like, "Oh, I saw it, like, I wanna feel important." Do you get a lot of that, or is that more just for TV?
No, that happens a lot, especially with cold cases. So I've had many, many cold cases. One of the things I specialized in was cold cases. With that comes a lot of media. So when you do media and you're asking for the public's help and you're putting cases on TV and you're showing the victim, you're showing some key evidence or some things you want to drum up some information, and you say, call the tip line or send us an email. I realized that, wow, some of the information that came in was incredible. Like it was just really from left field. Like,
Yeah.
and look, I'm not gonna give an opinion on whether I believe in someone's psychic ability. There are people who truly feel that that is relevant. But we had a lot of those cases where people would call in and say, I had a vision.
Mhm.
Um, that is not something that we can like stop what we're doing
To
to
go
to
and act on.
pursue. Right. We're looking for. I spoke to someone who admitted to me that they killed this victim, or I actually saw that person driving away from the crime scene. Doesn't mean they killed him, but there's maybe somebody you need to look at. Those are good leads because I got a tag number. Now I can run the tag. Hey, my man. So somebody gave us your tag number. Did you happen to be around the crime scene on this day? Now I could evaluate his answers and see if I think he's lying, if there's something else that I need to do with him. So that happens quite a bit with cases. On the other hand, there are people who come up to you at a crime scene, the actual scene when things are going on. They're behind the tape, the yellow police tape. And they're like, hey, I need to talk to you. I saw this and I saw that. And it doesn't even remotely match up to some of the facts that we know.
Mhm.
Like, where were you standing? Okay, there's absolutely no way if that person was standing where they said they were standing. They
Do
couldn't
they get
see.
in trouble for that? Because is that not, like, impeding on the investigation? Because now you're wasting time, like, dealing with them?
They don't get in trouble because it's I
So
don't have the
minute?
time. Yeah, it's just we don't have the resources or the time to pursue that. Like giving a false statement to the police is against the law. Um, there could be that's an actual charge, could
Yeah.
false statements of writings or obstruction, but it's not worth us taking the time out of the investigation to pursue that. So we just leave it alone.
Let it be. Atlanta's homicides have kinda, like, shifted throughout the decades. What do you think most patterns people are missing within that? Like, is there something specific? Do you think that there's alignment with it, or do you think that it's kinda just each case is different?
Are we talking the crime rate, the homicide rate?
Mhm.
So my opinion is gentrification. So gentrification has changed the landscape of the city because the resources, and this is sad to say, but with gentrification, we now have more squeaky wheels getting grease, so to speak. We have people who are complaining more. They're living in neighborhoods that were crime ridden, who have more influence on city government to make changes, and that's sad. It's not to say that before gentrification, the residents of those neighborhoods weren't concerned and didn't do the same thing, but I think it's a testament to the society that we've been in, the culture that we live in. I think it's in any major city, but especially Atlanta, where we're sitting today, this area here, I've patrolled this when I was in a narcotics unit. We patrolled citywide, and there were so many neighborhoods close to where we're sitting today, that were just crime-ridden. Shootings, assaults, drugs, homicides. That is cleaned up quite a bit because now we have new construction coming in. We have taxpayers that are paying a lot more money. They're on city hall's, heels with complaints. So the crime rate when I started, the homicide rate when I started in homicide in 2000 was double of what it was when I retired. Sheesh. It was double. It was almost 200, over 200 homicides a year. I remember when I retired, homicide rate was teetering right around 90 to 100 homicides a year. So significantly reduced. That's you know, literally 50%, well, that's 100%, almost 100% clearance or reduction in crime. And then depending on what mayor is in office at the time, and I'll give our mayor, current mayor, Andre Dickens, credit. He has done so much to help the police department in their efforts to reduce crime, and crime is down all over the city. Some people may disagree with that. Car breakings are down, assaults are down, homicide rate is at its lowest. Um, and
What do
then
you
I think
think he did to attribute to that? Sorry. Do you think it's like the funding or just saying that I support? Like, is there something specific you think he's doing that helps with that?
I think he does a lot of community initiatives, with the community to make resources available. Like he does midnight basketball. He does things like that. So on the community side, he's done a lot to empower the community to have programs, especially for our young folks. So they're not in the streets. The other part of that is he supports the police department, funding, training, equipment, things, and keeping up with technology to help reduce crime. So I think he's done a phenomenal job. But then the culture has changed too. We're talking about, in the 90s, we're coming out of the crack epidemic.
Right.
It was really prevalent in the late 80s. So in the early 90s, like crime was just really rampant in the city because we're still dealing with, um, the crime leftovers from that. And then little, I would say micro times in the history of Atlanta, and I could think of 2005, Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. A lot of people
Migrated over.
migrated here, and our crime rate went up. When we hosted the Super Bowl,
Atlanta's problem is always transient
it's
people.
it's tra-
Always the transient people.
right. It's like let's go down to Atlanta and cause trouble.
Commotion and go back home.
Right. So the crime rate goes up, during major sporting events. The Olympics, I'm not sure about that, but the Olympics we were on the world stage. Uh, that's different. That we had federal partners in place, we had state partners in place, and you couldn't commit a crime anywhere in downtown Atlanta during the Olympics. But we're talking about a different situation. So if I had the real answer to how to reduce crime,
Yeah.
I'd probably be in Washington, D.C., helping, the United States as a whole. So I just don't. I'm not
No.
that smart.
I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. So you've solved some really big cases and you've gotten some notoriety. How do you handle it? Like with all of the people I know, I follow you on TikTok and Instagram and your comments are really funny. Little women, you have all the women are in love with Vince. So how do you deal with all that? Like how do you balance the notoriety, the fame, the spotlight?
I'm a pretty straight, humble person. Like I don't really. It doesn't affect me because I try to use that as a tool. I don't really pay attention to like comments where people are like, "Oh, are you single?" and your wife is lucky or stuff like that. Really doesn't affect me. I do get comments a lot of times where people see some of the shows I've been on, my past TV shows where they're like, the way you handle yourself, the way you represent detectives, police departments, we wish we had someone like you in Baltimore or Chicago. That's what really motivates me because not so much for the fan of a show or true crime show that's watching that, but especially for other
Like your
police officers,
peers.
right. So, I've got a lot of messages from detectives in other cities who said, "Man, I watch your show, I'm trying to be a better detective. I learned so much from you." It's not just about the skill set, it's about how you deal with people.
Mm.
So, that's really what motivates me is trying to make people understand, especially other cops, that you don't even have to be the TV drama cops. Like, we don't have to
Right.
have banging on the door, like, "Where the cops? Open up, and you better tell me the truth or you're gonna go to prison for the rest of your life." That's not how I've never rolled that way. My homicide partner, David Quinn, we never rolled that way. We come at it people with the straight facts, like, "Look, I'm not threatening you. I'm just telling you these are the possibilities right now."
Right.
I can't tell you what to say, but if give me a reason as to why this happened, then maybe it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, then, you through your lawyer can work it out. But a jury is going to hear this. A jury is going to see this.
And it does not look great.
And it doesn't look great, right? So, it may not be you're going to walk away from this, but there's a way to mitigate some of the damage that you've caused. You have an opportunity right now to really show people who you are. You're a human, right?
Right.
And I'm talking like if I'm talking to a suspect. Um, and you have an opportunity to show people what you may have been going through that caused this to happen. So if you talk to people like that and some of the things like that, I think that's what resonates with people who say, "Hey, I've seen your show and I appreciate you doing that." The other stuff, the fluff, I mean, I'm not really. It doesn't affect me. Like if somebody stops and says, "Oh, I seen you. I was climbing Stone Mountain today," and a few people stopped me and said, "Hey, are you the guy from the TV show?" My standard and said, "Oh, yeah, I am. Thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Did you enjoy it? Yeah, I did. Okay. Appreciate you. I'm going to watch your show. Thanks so much." That's it. Short and
So just
sweet.
be cordial, don't be weird.
Right. Like, I always make time for people. If they stop me, I'm not a celebrity in any respect. I don't feel that way. I don't operate that way. I'm out. I'm Vince Velazquez. When I wake up, so I lay my head on the pillow. And if you see my show and you appreciate it and you say hello, I'm always going to say hello. I'm always going to be cordial. I'm always going to be nice.
I love it. Do you feel that, like, the fame has impeded in any of your cases or that people have asked you, like, "Can you look into this old case?" Or I know you have your podcast and things like that. Are you getting asked via social media? And
Yes.
how do you handle that?
Yes. I get requests all the time. Can you please look into my family member's case? And, these are people from all over the United States. And, what I do is I am a consultant. Not, I don't actually actively investigate anything anymore. What I do is do expert witness work more for civil cases,
Okay.
for wrongful death cases. So, I couldn't take, one of the problems with that is there are private detectives out there who will take somebody's money, a family member's money, to help solve. The police couldn't solve it. It's still a cold case now. So they'll charge them $10,000 and they come up with nothing, right? Now, could I come up with something? Yeah, but there's a 50-50 chance that I'm not because it's like solving a regular cold case. They're very hard to solve. So I'm not going to charge a family money to fly to Chicago, spend a few weeks on the ground, and take $10,000 or more from them because it costs a lot of money to do that, a
Yeah.
lot of expenses on my part. And then there's a 50-50 chance that I'm not going to give you anything. So what I do is I give them advice on what questions they can now present to the police department. Have you asked them to look at the file? Have you asked them to look at the phone records? What does the DNA say? So a lot of times family members don't know how to challenge the detectives. They're saying, "Look, we ran out of leads." you know, Demand that. I always say, like, you need to be over at the police department raising hell.
Yeah.
Like, I need to speak to somebody about this case.
Do you have something that you would offer? Like, do you have a package or, like, if somebody is like, "I really want you to work this case. it's a cold case, da 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 da, but you don't have time. Do you have like a questionnaire or something that you offer the public before they reach out to you because they don't know those questions to ask? Like, I would have no idea where to start outside of asking chat. Like, what should I ask?
No, and the reason why is because every case is
Is different.
right.
So it's not like a standard.
Right, and
Okay.
unfortunately, I would have to, like, literally get the case file, read it.
See what
So
was missing and then go from there.
right, so typically, I just my standard answer is, like, I don't investigate cases anymore, but I would encourage you to challenge the police department to really ask those tough questions. Ask them, "What have they done?" Give you a list of things that they've done, and then start researching what you think could be done. There's a lot you can learn online. I just unfortunately just don't have the time to really help everybody because I get so many of those
I can only
emails.
imagine.
Right, and it makes me sad that I'm not able to help them, but that would be a full-time job for me, and unfortunately, I have several other full-time jobs.
You're a very busy man.
Very,
You are I don't know how you do it all. I really don't.
very busy.
Has there been a case now with technology? I see like all these new cases reemerging, and you see the Netflix and Hulu series of them reopening these cases, and you see TikTok people solving cases.
Yeah.
Is there any cases that you wish that you worked on that you could reopen with technology today? Or just a case that maybe you didn't work on, but you would like to see with the advancements now where it could be?
Well, I actually have a case that I worked for 20 years. It's a young girl that was killed, in Southwest Atlanta, walking to school one morning. She was brutally raped and murdered, shot to death. So I worked this case. I left it in some really good hands with a detective when I left. And what he did was take genealogy, and through genealogy, which was the same method and technology the cops in San Francisco used to catch the BTK killer,
Okay.
used that same technology and was able to identify the actual suspect.
That's crazy.
Unfortunately, the suspect died before by the time we recognized who he was, he had died of some medical issues. So although we identified him, we were still able to close that case and at least let the family
And
know.
give her family some peace.
That's right. So that was some technology that I give him so much credit, and that took even that technology piece took him almost a year and a half to complete because genealogy is very complicated. You have to hire a genealogist. You have to go through. People say, ever heard the term a cousin twice removed?
Yes.
That is so far down your familial line. It's not like your cousins, two cousins ago. It's not
Right.
that. And you have to go get. So imagine someone marries somebody and they're your cousin, but they're really not your cousin.
Right. Because they're
So
through marriage, but then this person over here might be related to this
100%.
person and then this
Right.
person.
You got to go to the courthouse. You have to get marriage certificates. You got to see who was married to whom. So a lot of groundwork he did, a lot of groundwork, and finally he got the results. So that's some technology that really opened my eyes to that case because I never thought of that. I mean, when
Right.
I retired, that was such in its infancy that I've heard about it, but I didn't even understand how it
How it
worked.
works, yeah, or and to see it
That's right.
probably was like, "Whoa."
That's right. He took that football and just ran with it, made the touchdown.
Do you think, like, closing that case brought the family more peace, or do you think it made it harder, like,
It was
reopening?
yeah.
Because I feel like at that point, you probably have some kind of closure. So then to reopen it, like, "We found them, but"
Yeah, it was tough. I actually attended the press conference with him and the mom with APD. But it was a double-edged sword because although we now know who it was, she didn't get her day in court. So she felt cheated. The family felt cheated. This particular perpetrator not only killed this victim, but 9 years later raped another young girl, but didn't kill her. So now we have two victims, one that's dead and one that's alive. And that victim didn't get her day in court, the rape victim that survived. So we now know these cases are closed, but you don't get a chance to like look at that person in the eyes and let them see how much damage you caused.
no, for sure, or for them to serve their time.
Right, that's right.
Mm. Alright, so speaking of, like, TV and dramatization, within your show, it is dramatized, correct? A little for TV?
So the Murder Mind show is not.
Okay.
Our Murder Mind show is real. Everything you hear, everything you see, happened.
Okay, was ATL Homicide?
Same thing.
Same thing, it's all real and it happened.
Everything, yeah, every show we've had 3 shows. ATL Homicide did 4 seasons, and then from there we went to Deadly Case Files. We did 1 season, and now, I'm doing my own thing, the Murder Mind Show on YouTube, and it's my cases, and what you're seeing and what you hear me narrate is from when I get the call, we got a person that's been shot or raped and killed, to where I show up on scene and, 8, 9, 10 episodes later, you're hearing me how I close the case. But what's great about this is you get to hear real police audio, real suspect interviews and interrogations, real video interrogations, and you get the full gamut. So if you add all the episodes up, you're getting about 3 or 4 hours of this one case. So you get all of the details, all the real police photos.
How do you choose those cases? Is it like whoever's family signed, like, the waivers and agreed, or do you pick cases? No, you're good.
Sorry.
Do you pick cases that you feel like, how do you choose them?
So I've had so many cases that I have a library of cases. Um, we don't really reach out to the families on these cases. These are cases that have been on the other shows, by the way. So they've already been aired in on another format. But our show is really victim driven as well. I mean,
Mhm.
we want to make sure that we are honoring the legacy of the victims because although I'm talking about what I did to solve the case, we are also highlighting how important these victims were,
Right.
and to the people that they left behind. So, um, we just try to pick the most compelling cases and show the cases that have so many twists and turns. Obviously, we've had cases where someone actually killed maybe their spouse and actually called 911 and said, "You need to come over here." Yeah, you can't really get a TV show out of that because there's not a lot of mystery into.
Right, because it's like, I did this.
Right, I did the these cases are the ones which are most homicide cases where they're whodunits. We have a body, have no idea what happened, and there's a litany of suspects from family members to business associates to a random robbery, and then we're chasing all of these leads, and we're all over the place, and finally we start to zero in on the right suspect. People love true crime. I think people innately want to be detectives.
Oh,
They
yeah.
like to figure things out. Ironically, in my opinion, is women make so better detectives than men.
Pay attention to the details.
The details, right? You guys know, like, y'all.
Like, "No, he had a green shirt on. What are you talking?"
Yeah, yeah, and you know what people are lying, and you can pick up on things. So a lot of the fans of the show are women. They like to delve into that, and and there's another safety aspect because I think women, especially women who see these cases that we show on a Murder Mind show, a lot of this stuff has to deal with safety when you're
Yeah.
operating. You get to see, like, it's never, in my opinion, the victim's fault, but there are times where people are less safe. They make themselves less safe.
You dropped the ball. You have both your headphones in loud, you're not paying attention to your surroundings, la, la. Yeah.
Right. You're running around. You're in your car on your phone. You're parked in a parking space in a parking lot, and you're
Texting doors
texting,
on
emailing, and you're not paying attention to what's going on. And here comes this perpetrator, and he's like, "Okay, here's an easy mark." So I think it opens people's minds and eyes to know that, hey, you really need to keep your head on swivel.
Do you have any advice for people, like, just common things to pay attention to outside of just the norm, like being aware of your surroundings, maybe not having your headphones loud, stuff outside of that that might help people?
I would say the best advice, and I'm going to say this is for women in contentious that may lead to abusive relationships, is pay attention to those red flags early. They are there, and women refuse to recognize that.
As smart as we are, we love to collect the red flags, like,
Elect the red flag. Like, trust your instinct. Like, trust your gut. Trust your friends. Like, your friends really, if you have true friends, they are gonna tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. That's a true friend. And so many times, the red flags are not just what the victim was telling their friends that they were experiencing, seeing, but the friends also telling the victim,
what they
"Hey,
saw.
look, this guy's not good for you. He's disrespecting you. Our next case on Murder Mind show is a great example of that. Um, the viewers will be able to see where this poor young lady who took a chance at love with somebody ended up being a monster and ended up killing her. So I've had so many cases like that. So that to me is the most important thing, is that I think men who want to be controlling, who are inherently narcissistic, and the little things start to matter, and to the point where it becomes maybe just a little nudge. Then the nudge turns into a grab, and then the grab turns into a push, and then the push turns into a punch, and then the punch turns into a choke, and then the choke may turn into a stab wound or a gunshot. So many cases I've seen that, and at that point, it's too late.
But don't you think, like, in a way, the system kind of fails them into, like, even if we do collect those red flags, like, once you do, like, I have a friend who tried to report someone and she's like, yo, like, he busted my windows, he flattened my tires, like, he hit me, like, I have bruises, and the police were just like, there's not enough. Like, there's not enough for us to get a TPO, or there's not enough evidence, or there's not. So, like, if you are in that situation and you're going through the proper channels, then what do you
Yeah.
suggest? Because I feel like that's more common than not. Like, yes, we've collected the red flags, yes, we're stuck, but now we're stuck.
Yeah.
Like, how, if you can't get these things from the system that quickly, what do you suggest?
Well, so without a specific case as an example, I find it hard to believe that a police department, if someone had physical injuries and some substantial proof, wouldn't act on that. But I will say this: like, let's become detectives, right? Let's think analytically, to the point where if a woman is getting abused, let's start putting some processes in place that help you prove this, right? Record conversations. I'll give you an example. My phone has the home screen of my phone has a audio recorder button that all I got to do is press it. So
Okay.
if I ever need to capture a conversation
You got it.
quickly, I just hit it, put my phone on dark, put my phone down, it's done.
Is that legal here? Like, that can be used?
Right, in Georgia and in many states, Georgia's a one-party consent state. That
Okay.
means as long as one person understands that they're being recorded,
That's all that
it's
matters.
legal. What is illegal is if, as we're talking, someone else is putting a recorder down to record our conversation. That's eavesdropping.
Okay.
That's illegal. But if a woman is dealing with a man who's abusing her, start recording those conversations. Take pictures of your injuries. Try to leave the phone line open when she's talking to somebody while this person starts to abuse them.
Okay.
Make a phone call, put the phone down, let someone listen in, create witnesses on your behalf, and start literally working your own case. Become your own detective.
That's
And
smart.
I can't imagine bringing all that evidence into somebody. And here's another avenue that women can do. If the police department is not paying attention to you, go down to the courthouse. You can file for TPO on your own directly through the court.
Really?
You don't need the cops. No, you do not need the cops. You can go file for a TPO, go to the clerk's office. They will tell you exactly and give you the form. And what's going to happen is they're going to send it to the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department is then going to serve that person with a notice to appear, and a judge is going to hear evidence. Police department's never even involved if you don't want that to happen.
That's really good to know.
Yeah.
That's really good to know. So now you've been in the police department, you've been a detective, you've been a consultant. Do you see gaps today in the police department or in law enforcement that you feel like need to be filled? I know that you're not the overseer of everything, but are there things that you notice that you're like, okay, we need to maybe tighten back up on this? Or there is this hole that's always been there, and now it needs to be filled this way?
Well, it's hard for me to speak. Let me say it's easier for me to speak about the department that I belong to for 22 years. So what I've seen is, I think where this police department, Atlanta police, are today compared to when I was there, they're way more progressive, and I think it's helped quite a bit. I think um, with the advent of having, we didn't have body cameras when I was there. We didn't have half of the technology that the police department and training that they have now. So I think being more transparent is the number one thing. If there are police departments nationwide that are not subscribed to body cameras, you should. I shouldn't have anything to hide,
Right. If
right?
you're doing your job.
If
For sure.
if I'm doing it correctly,
For
right,
sure.
I would be more than welcome for you to because it's twofold. It also
Protects you.
That's right.
And that would be my thing. Like, if somebody is gonna say, especially like as a man pulling over a woman, if I try to flirt with you
Right.
and you're like, yeah, no, here's your ticket. But then I go and I'm like, well, he sexually harassed me. And you're like, oh no.
There's the tape.
Yeah. Like you would think that it would cover.
But there are cops out there who it is, the personality and the psychology of who they are. They may be a little more prone to putting hands on people where they don't have the patience that they probably should have. And I think cameras and accountability help control that or curtail some of that. Now, we've all seen cases, and one recently where the young man was in his car. Now he was filming. Now I haven't seen the body cam side of it, but there is body cam. But these guys were completely, the cops were, in my opinion,
They punched that man in the face.
punched him in his face, booked his window.
Like,
So there are cops out there and there are police departments out there that need to look at that and say, okay, what's the training piece? Now, I think it's the sheriff or the police chief of that department.
he got on camera and said, my officer did nothing wrong.
Right. I disagree with that. But I think, speaking solely for the police department here in Atlanta, I think they're in a much better place than when I was there.
Okay.
I think, the police chief is openly gay. That's a very progressive. And I think, now that you see, they're even, some people may disagree with this. Like, we see police officers with beards now. Like,
Oh, yeah.
beards were not allowed, and it goes back to, the day of when we were there, we couldn't have beards. And the reason was, well, if you ever have to put a gas mask on, is it going to really seal your face? And the police department is a paramilitary organization. When I was in the military, beards are not only
Can't have anything.
right, no earrings, no tattoos, et cetera, et cetera. So obviously, I'm tatted up.
He said, I'm free.
I'm free, right? But I mean, things are changing, and I think the biggest piece is as technology is changing, the police department, Atlanta PD especially, is embracing that technology, and that can only make the citizens safer. So I think it's a good thing.
Do you think so? In addition to like body cams, what else can police departments do to help with this public mistrust? Because I feel like, especially with people of color, there's just this disproportion between us and the police. How do you think that they can kind of bridge that outside of body cams? Or is there a way?
It's a great question, and I don't know that I have an adequate answer that encompasses what I think is required. But I will say, I think the community piece of really reaching out, they have programs, Coffee with a Cop. They have shopping at Christmas with the community where they bring, members, especially children, disadvantaged neighborhoods shopping. I think those programs are really important. And I know the chief of police in Atlanta is very interested. I know him personally, that he is very interested in making sure that there is opportunities where they can bridge the gap, where the community can ask questions and be transparent.
So basically, we just need to humanize officers. That way they seem more approachable to people. So like a lot of those events that you're talking about, I think for the general public, it just makes them seem like people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not just necessarily like do this, or I'm here to be this big bad guy.
Yeah, I mean, we all have bad days, right? But like, you can't be a cop and have a bad day and transfer that to somebody else, or you shouldn't be a cop. I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
bedside manners are important. Like, I've had times where I just was completely mentally drained, and then something pops up where I've got to deal with someone in the public. It's one of those, take a deep breath, exhale, and understand what your job is.
Right.
So I liken that to, like, as a parent, when you have a really bad day, and you go pick your kid up from school,
They don't care.
one, they don't care, and two, you cannot act like your bad day now transfers into the interaction with your kid. And parents are really good at that, where you're like, "Hey, how was your day?" And you're giving them. You don't think you have anything left, but you do. You have so much left, and you're giving it to your kids. So why can't you do that professionally? You got to realize that a citizen that you just stopped doesn't care that you had a bad day. It doesn't
No.
mean that you shouldn't be concerned about your bad day. You deserve to
And take
some
off.
some relief,
Yeah.
right? You may need to finish your shift, but you got to realize why you're there. And I think this police department, the current administration that I see now, I think they do a good job with trying to understand what's going on, not just with the police department, but the interactions and the perception that the public has, right? Because we always expect, I'll be honest with you, I'm a retired cop. Like when I get pulled over, I still get anxious. I feel anxiety. I'm on in the wheel and I'm like, all right, let me put my windows down. Let me do what I need to do. Now, there's been times that I've been pulled over where I still don't get what I'm expecting,
Mhm.
right? So let me give you an example. If you go to a restaurant and you sit down and you see the waiter walking up, you already know what to expect.
Right.
They're going to say, "Welcome to
Whereas
X,
these are the
these
specials.
are the
What can I get for you
specials.
to
Can I
drink?
start you something to drink?" Now, it happens so often that we are conditioned to expect that. Now, when the matrix changes, right, and they took the blue pill instead of the red pill and they're doing something different, it messes us up.
Mhm.
So what do we do? There, our energy changes,
For
right?
sure.
It instantly we change to match that energy, right? We can't stay in the same role anymore.
No.
We can't because something's not
You're
right.
10s, I'm 10s. Like, we could have
I don't like his attitudes.
said, I don't like yours either.
Right. Just get me a beer. Like, and then all of a sudden, all you guys are doing is matching negative energy.
Yeah.
So let's transfer that situation to a cop pulling somebody over, right? Now, you're already a little tense. No one, you think you're going to get a ticket. It's not feeling good. And all of a sudden, this cop's got major attitude. Are you going to really be like, hey, officer,
Oh, yeah,
also,
absolutely not.
thanks for pulling me over. How's your day going? No, you're not going to be that way.
I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you're gonna try to hurt me."
And then little by little, this thing starts to escalate. And that's what happens, right? And I think if the police department can train through community programs, citizens on what to expect and how to act, what your role should be, and this is what you could expect from the cops, and then train the cops to say, this is what you need to be saying and doing, no matter how you feel, no matter how bad your day is. You got to step into that role. You need to be the waiter and make sure you ask them, tell them about the specials, tell them about the drink
You need to do your
menu.
job.
You need to do your
Yeah.
job, right? You need to have good customer service. And I think if those two things can meet somehow in the middle, that it just has to it will get better.
That makes sense. So, with all of that and emotions, when you're working, not that you're super active anymore as far as your cases, but when you were working or even now, how do you decompress after all of that? Because that's a lot. Like the people, the bodies, the families, the emotions, everything. What do you do to make sure that you're still you?
Well, speaking for me as a detective is different because you never really turn it off. Like, even though you leave the office for the day, like homicide cases are very intense. They're ever changing. Evidence is different, from case to case. You have witnesses that you may leave a phone message or a card on someone's door and they call you at 8 o'clock at night and they're like, "Hey, I'm ready to talk." Well, I may not have that opportunity again. So now I need to put a suit back on and go back out. Tell my son, "Hey, I'll be home." My teenage son at the time. This happened so many times. You know, I got to run out real quick. So I go out and I do this interview. So it never really turns off. I've been times where I've actually went to bed and I'm dreaming about the case. I'm actually dreaming about
Because you're that in.
I'm that invested in it because when I wake up, it's like the wheels are turning. Okay,
Mhm.
now it's a chess game.
Right.
I just moved my rook. Okay, they are probably gonna move their pawn. I wonder what I should do next. So it's hard to turn it off as a homicide detective. When I was on patrol and when I was in uniform in other divisions, it's easier because I'm not getting called back in. I'm not having a each case is different. I made a traffic stop, I made an
Right.
arrest, and it's not it. But I still felt tense. So in for a uniform officer, my go-to was my family, like raising my son and just really investing in his activities. And it really made me forget about all that and understand what life is about. Life's about being happy and embracing your family, right?
Is it hard though with your family and your son, like, after seeing all that and then coming home? Did it make you scared? Like, this is literally the world that you're living in, this is the city you're living in, like, what the heck?
I think it makes, as a police officer, makes you like your head's on swivel all the time. You're always thinking about, you're watching the door, you're with your son, you're with your whomever, even if like the police officers, no kids with their spouse, you're out to eat. They know where the exits are. Someone is acting a little strange. we pick up on it probably quicker than the average person. Maybe nothing to it, but I'm focused on it. You would never know that,
Right. But
I'm
you're hyper vigilant.
hyper vigilant. I'm always looking, expecting the worst. Don't want my back to the door. Do I have my weapon? Yeah, my weapon's on me. If we had to get out of here, did I? Most cops back their car in to a
Yes, get pull out.
you got to get out real quick. You want to go. So all those things kind of transfer and they resonate. To this day, I still, back my car into a space. It's not because people laugh at that and they're like, why you back your car?
My dad taught me that. He said,
Yeah, but
in case anything happens, you just leave.
just roll out. Like I don't have to back up and do a 3 point. I'm just out.
Yeah.
And that's what cops do too, because if you got to respond in an emergency, you just got to go.
Go.
So those things they resonate with you and they stay with you. And to this day, a lot of that behavior is still with me. I don't like sitting with my back
To the
to
door.
a door. I want to see the door. Movies theaters make me very nervous. I always want to sit on the aisle somewhere. I want to know where the exits are. I usually sit in the back of the theater so I could run out the back, no, run out the main entrance. But those things are things that I think all officers deal with that the average person probably doesn't even think about.
Does that make it hard for you now? Because you're dating.
Mhm.
Does that make it hard for you when you are dating and doing those things? Like, or your partners don't even notice it?
They don't even notice. Like if I'm out, I mean, I was on a date probably a couple months ago, and she was insisting on sitting. We had this issue when we tried to sit down at the table, and I'm like, I need to sit here.
Right.
Why don't I sit with my back to the door? And I'm like, okay, why? I'm just curious. Just all while the waiter is trying to
Standing there, like, come on.
Right. And well, I just don't. I'm like, okay, so what if something happens? So what are you gonna do? She's like, well,
I'm gonna run out.
I'm like, well, I have a gun. So
Right.
when you want me to sit so I see what's coming? And it was like, yeah, what are you gonna do? Shoot him? I'm like, look, I don't know. Like, I don't know.
But I can react better than you
Like,
can. So move.
It's just, can you sit over here? Like, come on. And I'm like, so speaking of energy, so our energy's off already. I'm just like, okay.
You're like, this is a red flag. I'm not collecting
Yeah,
it.
I'm like, this is not gonna work, right? She's always I'm watching the door. Okay, I got the door.
That is so funny. Is there like a rule or something that you wish people would follow just to maintain safety?
I would say put the phone down. Like the phone is God. Like
I'm terrible at it.
yeah, we're so glued to these phones, and they get they're such a distraction.
Yeah.
And it's just hard because our lives are in our phones, our emails, or messages,
Yeah.
phone calls, everything is coming through this
You
phone.
listen to music and emailing and texting and
Yeah.
hopefully not driving.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's just such a distraction. Like when you park, some people sit in their driveway while they're on their phone. Worst thing you do, your lights are on, your foot's on the brake, the lights are illuminated. You're like it's like, come rob me. They might as well put a sign.
Really?
I mean, yeah, like you just need to get inside. Like
Just go in.
go home. Go inside your house. And whatever you did, 3, 4, 5 seconds of time is not going to make a difference doing it in your car versus doing it into your apartment or your home.
That's fair.
So I would say put your phone down and um, and look up. I want to give you an experiment. Next time you're out and about, if you're at a park, watch people walking around and notice how many times people do not look up ever.
I've been going to Piedmont finally. I've been going with my friend Jess, and we've been walking in between people that are like holding hands, walking and texting, and then just down. And whether they're texting or looking at their dog or their kid. But I mean, there's no attention to anything.
Nothing. They're not like look around like, like if you ever look at a photograph, all we see is the people in the photograph.
Yeah.
Next time, look at a real photo and just pay attention to every single detail in the background.
Everybody's probably.
You can appreciate that photo so much more because there's things in the photo that you're just not.
You didn't notice because you're not present.
Right.
Is there any truth is stranger than fiction stories that you have or cases that it was like, I can't believe that this is real life that you're able to share?
For like homicide stuff?
Anything.
I mean, nothing surprises me, but everything surprises me. I've seen it all. I've seen bodies explode, decomps. I've seen people who have died from autoerotic sexual deaths where they're, doing some things that
It's giving like 1,000 Ways to Die from back in the day.
yeah,
Like shampoo bottles.
yeah, like just crazy things, and then ways people have committed suicide, tragic, just some really gruesome crime scenes. So stuff that you may see a little bit on TV about it, but not. It's too graphic. Like you'll never see that type of stuff that we've seen in a drama. It's just you
So
can't.
even as bad as it is on TV, like with some of
Some of the
the
stuff's 10 times worse.
really.
100%.
Do you watch Criminal Minds?
I don't watch. I don't watch cop shows.
That makes sense.
And once in a while, I'll do some Law and Order. But I just love. I love the characters on Law and Order. But I don't watch TV drama cop shows.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. What do you think is the biggest misconception about homicide detectives?
The biggest misconception, I think, is that we solve cases with science in hours. Like, we can just type something in a computer and it just pops out. Like, you know, and the biggest, okay, let me back up. No, there's one even better. The biggest misconception is throw that photo in the enhancing the video.
And then it's gonna just
And
find
all of a sudden, the
someone's
pixels all come together, and there's the license plate. Total bullshit. Total bullshit. Or like a blurry face, and we're like, okay, we're gonna run this through this algorithm and this software. Oh, there he is. No, total bullshit.
Is it like that with the sketches too? Like if I describe someone, they sketch it, and then you guys put it in a database, and then boom, you found them.
No, no. Now the sketches are good. The artists are good. I have plenty of cases when I looked at the sketch and then I look at the actual suspect. I'm like, damn,
Is
she
that
was
good?
spot on, right? And it has to do with the artist asking the right questions of the
Mhm.
person being given a description of the person. But the biggest misconception is that.
That database.
Yeah, like the bigger you make a picture, becomes pixelated. It becomes worse. It doesn't work that way. Yeah, unfortunately.
All right, so I'm gonna ask you some rapid fire questions.
Purple, no.
If you weren't in law enforcement, what career would you have chosen?
Chef.
Really? What
Yeah.
kind of chef?
And I don't know. I'm just fascinated by, like, I know it sounds silly, but like I want to know how to like cut vegetables fast.
Fast?
Yeah, like this. I'm like that is so cool, and like
Where?
knowing how to put like ingredients in. And I see these guys like I've watched Chef Ramsay. I'm like that shit's so cool.
I love Chef Ramsay. I'm always like, I can make this, and then I end up with a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, "Ugh."
Yeah,
All right, coffee or energy drinks? What kept you going on long cases?
coffee.
Really?
Oh my god, yeah.
Are you a black coffee person?
No, I'm cream and sugar
You're like,
cappuccino.
sugar me up?
Yeah, never an energy drink. Don't drink those.
Okay, that's real. What's the strangest clue that ever cracked a case wide open?
Strangest clue, I would say a broom.
A broom.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What's one safety tip you think everyone in Atlanta should follow?
Put your phones down.
Yeah. That's just universal. You're like, just put them down.
Yeah, put them down.
Okay. If Hollywood made a movie about your life, who would you want to play you?
Benjamin Bratt.
Really?
Yeah, I like that guy.
Maybe I'll get to meet him now.
Okay.
Have you met him?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's a really cool actor.
I love that.
Yeah.
What's one myth about police work that TV always gets wrong outside of the one you just gave us?
DNA in 5 minutes.
The system's backed up. It's going to take time.
Yeah, it takes a while.
All right. What's your personal definition of a good detective in one sentence?
Someone who likes puzzles and can figure things out.
That's good. What's the most memorable lesson a case ever taught you?
That I need to put my ego aside.
Okay, humble. Fill in the blank. Being a homicide detective made me,
A better person.
look at you, all sentimental. That was it. What's next for you? Because you have all these endeavors and all these things like retired, not retired, still working.
Yeah, I'm the busiest retired person I think anyone's ever met. They're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, you're not retired." I'm like,
Like you have like 4 jobs.
I am. What's exciting is that I don't know what's next, and that excites me because I'm not done. I still have a lot to contribute, and I'm having fun. Like I'm not like everything I do is not work to me. It's fun.
And you now love what you do.
love. Like, if I didn't have to sleep, I wouldn't. Like, I would just keep rolling with what I'm doing. Like, yeah, I wake up in the morning, I'm like, "I can't wait to just get going." Like, I'm just ready to go.
So out of Hawks, consulting, and the podcast, if you could only do one, which one would you pick?
So the TV media, the true crime stuff
Mhm.
is probably my top pick,
Yeah.
right? Because 'Cause I'm doing, the YouTube Murder Mind show, working on some podcast stuff, and then we also have we started a new production company, and we're working on some other projects of my own, but we're also developing some other talent, some other detectives, some other
That's super exciting.
things. Yeah, we wanna showcase we're looking at some female detectives that have some really unique skills. So we're looking at to, create a platform where we're like the central hub for or one of the central hubs for true crime stuff, true crime content. Not just me, but a bunch. There's so many people that are talented.
Mhm.
There's so many detectives that are way more talented than me. There's so many detectives that have such incredible stories. Women, men, it doesn't matter, and then finding that talent and then showcasing it and let their light shine, because I you could hear my cases all day long, but like there's a million people out there that have that are
That's similar.
that have some great stories to tell. So that's really interesting to me to just try to pursue that.
When will that be coming together?
We're working on it now.
Okay.
We're working on a project now for a documentary. I can't really talk about what it is.
You think like 2026, 2027?
26, yeah,
Okay.
definitely 26
That's
for one
exciting.
project, yeah, and the other ones are in development. Like, we're trying to, work on some content to put some things together to shop it around, especially with some other detectives to try to get them some shows.
That's super exciting. I did want to say thank you for taking the time today and being so open and sharing.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. And guys, that is the Bridge Views. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. All of Vince's information is below if you want to contact him. And until next time, bye guys.